Well, I'm so over the moon excited to have you back, Geeta. The last time that we spoke was so inspiring. And yeah, it's just so great. So, Geeta Sidhu-Robb is an incredible, incredible human being. I really love your story, Geeta, about how you went from this, place where your marriage fell apart and you were left with nothing and then you just built yourself up. I mean, that is definitely being a new paradigm leader right there, to be able to lead yourself in that situation. And then build two incredible enterprises. Geeta is the CEO of Nosh Detox, which is what we all need to be detoxing our bodies, our mind, our soul. She's a well sought out coach, working with some incredible, incredible women all over the world. She's got incredible clients that are receiving immense, I don't know what you want to call it, satisfaction, empowerment. I haven't worked with you yet, but just the little bit that I've known you has been so incredible. Like, I've had huge shifts in my personal power in just the 15-minute introduction with you. So I know that your work is powerful. She's also the CEO and founder of W Corp, which is empowering women in business all over the world. And she's going to go into great detail about that at the end of this conversation. So make sure you watch till the end. It's so great to have you here, Geeta.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. We had fun hanging out before.
It was so good. We had so much fun. And for those of you that are watching this, if you have not watched the Awaken the Goddess Within conversation with Geeta and I, make sure you do, because it was absolutely incredible. So I know this is going to be incredible too, because this is where we talk about leadership, which is your superpower. I mean, I feel it's your superpower, one of your superpowers. So yeah, just great to have you here. The first question is, what does leadership mean to you?
I think that, let me give a feminine answer to that. I think that it is important for us to lead ourselves before we try and lead anyone else. And that leadership for me is about having impact. It's very late in life that I realized leadership meant bringing people along, because I was just like, well, if I can just change all these things, then you all get the benefit of it, and then we're good. And that was it, because I'm a raging introvert. And I was like, let me just do this little bit here and this bit here and this bit here and this bit here. And then it's only now, honestly, that I've understood that there are different elements to it. Yes, you can have the impact, but you need to be able to allow people to follow in the path that you're creating. And I just never thought about that. I wasn't really of the opinion anyone needed to follow me to do anything. And then I realized that that was a really short-sighted way to approach it. That if somebody wanted to be able to follow you, why would you say no? That also had its own impact, And I think masculine leadership and feminine leadership are two different things. And with men, you expect people to follow you. That's what it's all about. And with women, I don't know that we necessarily just expect that. I was a bit like, okay. And I kind of had to make my peace with it, and then we're good. So change, transformation, impact. I think that's the purpose of leadership.
I love that. Isn't that true? I resonate with that so much. Like, everything you say, I'm like, I identify with that. I love how you make the difference between the masculine and the feminine way of leading as well. And love that, we have to lead ourselves first. That's been my experience too. And so it reminds me of this backpack my mom bought me when I was a kid. It was a Ziggy backpack with the little legs out the back. And it says, don't follow me, I'm lost too. And, I thought it's such a responsibility being a leader, because whether you want to be followed or not, people are going to follow you and they're going to get inspired. So there's this responsibility in leadership that I'm acutely aware of. And so, do you consider yourself a leader?
Yeah, yeah, I do. But I
Yeah.
think I've been for longer than I'm willing to accept. I think that I hid in plain sight a lot, you know, when I was younger. And now I just don't. Now it's like, it is what it is. Let's all move on. Because now I think now I have very clear things I want to do with it, and things I want to change, and things I want to shift. And you have to be seen to do those things. And I'm like, well, okay, then let's go for it.
Love that. Let's just go for it. Well, you answered my why. The next question was, why do you see yourself as a leader? But can you tell us a little bit more what that why is? Why is it important?
Because I just deeply, I deeply, deeply can't bear injustice. I just can't. There's many things that I kind of think, meh, but injustice just really maddens me. And I've always been an activist where it came to something I thought was unfair, I thought was unjust, and it's made my life uncomfortable and you know, made me a subject of attack, because women with who do put their head above the parapet do get attacked. And I've never not done it, because I think that when I do pass, when I do die, I think, what would I like to leave behind? You know? And people always talk about legacy, and I'm not interested. To me, again, legacy is a very masculine thing. Look what I did. I honestly don't care about that. But if what I can do is achieve more of that change, transformation, impact for women. So for me, it's always been, how do you help kids? And the way you help kids is by helping their mothers, by helping women. And that's how I ended up very long time ago. I'm chair of things, Montessori Global, it's a charity. And so I'll still do a lot of and we do a lot of work around refugee kids and stuff. And I always do that. But it's always, what can I do to help women? And so anything that I can do, and the taller I have to stand, it doesn't matter. I'm comfortable there now, finally.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah. What is our impact, but not from significance, but from what kind of change is going to be made from your impact? That is so meaningful and so beautiful. We are so happy that you're on this planet being a leader and embracing your leadership. So needed.
Thank you. And also, significance is such a fantastic word, because it's really important not to have significance from anything external. It just is. So, because the more significance you get from something external or someone external, the more you warp and woof your thing to fit that criteria. And that's a very unhealthy place to be. So I think that when you settle inside yourself for what it is that you want to do, and then you go do that thing, then that's where I think happiness lies, because that's well, to be fair, the universe did kind of hit me upside the head a few times, because I was, you know, like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to do this. No, I don't want to do that. I'll do that. And it was like, you are so doing this. I was like, oh, okay, then I have to make my peace with it. So significance is a really good word, because you do have to, okay, so what am I saying? I think I'm saying, and maybe this is a question you're going to ask, so forgive me. I'm saying that leadership had to be worked out in my heart and my brain before I wanted to exemplify it and personify it. And I never understood that when I was younger. And when I was younger, it was just the things I was going to go do and need to change in things. Now I'm like, no, here's what I want to make changes in. Here's who I'm going to be to do those things. Here's how I want to be. And then I'm now showing up to do that. And it's a very different way of doing it, because I've lived a life in the public eye since my 20s. So I know that that's what I've done. And I know the price that you pay for it. And so this time around, my kids are older, my choices are more clear, my direction's very clear. And I think that the more leaders we get that come from a space of alignment, the happier we're all going to be, including the leaders, I assume.
Yeah, that's so true. Isn't that great? I love that. There was something going around Facebook too, something about not building a home inside of others, but building a home within yourself. And I read that. It was, I think, a poem, and I just cried. I wish I would have saved it, but it was so good about if we build our home in other people, like our children or anyone. It can be taken away, and then we lose ourselves completely. And so what I'm hearing you say is building our home in the things that we can then actually lead and move forward successfully. And that significance is related to that, in putting that out there instead of placing it on, like being a heart-led leader and doing something that isn't about ego. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that we don't, it's hard to tell when you're an ego sometimes, you know, if you're just a normal human. And I think for me, I like to define external validation versus internal validation. And so I work very hard to stay within what my internal validation says, requires, behaves. And sometimes it's very easy and sometimes it sucks.
Yeah, I hear that. I relate to that too. Yeah, I sometimes feel like that Egyptian, is it Mot, the Egyptian goddess with this, always weighing it up, the heart and the feather. I guess that would be very strong in you because you used to be a lawyer too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the analytical skills are there.
Right. Wow. That must be so intense, but I bet it fuels your passion even more. So,
but it's a very good tool to understand and do research and to have a learning of what it is you're trying. It was just, they're great analytical skills you learn at law school, and it means you can read lots of really boring crap and come to a conclusion. And so, I have a great skill set in reading boring crap and arriving at a conclusion. So research is just something that you kind of learn how to do. So yeah.
I get that. I have to do a lot of research study in the academic world too for psychology.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is why we take so long. We get to chatting about all sorts of things. You're so interesting.
You're a very good listener.
Oh, thank you. So what does old paradigm mean to you? Old paradigm leadership in particular?
I mean, my instinctive reaction is that it's an abuse of power, and I maybe shouldn't use that languaging, but that's how it feels. That old paradigm leadership is very masculine, it's very heavy, it's very oppressive, and it's very my way or the highway. And it isn't, the stakeholders for old paradigm leadership. I come from, again, it's coming from a lawyer. When you run a company, the stakeholders of a company are not the people that work in the business. They're the shareholders who may never show up in the business at all. And old paradigm leadership is who the people that we know, that we like, that we can benefit.
Yeah.
And help them make money so we make money. This is the rich getting richer and all that stuff. And I think that's what that is. And I think that's very clearly on its way out.
Oh, thank goddess, huh? Whew. Yeah. And what does the new paradigm leadership mean to you?
I think that new paradigm leadership is more feminine. One of the things we learned during the pandemic was that the women leaders handled the pandemic way, way better than the male leaders did, including in your own country of New Zealand. And so I have an entire workshop on this called Lead Like a Woman. But there's a place where the feminine approach to leadership is actually what is considered good leadership. So if you look at, like, there's the Center for Leadership, for Leaders, is it Center for Leaders? Center for Leadership. And they had 8 criteria for leadership, and 6 of the 8 are female qualities. And what we tend to do is we hire a man as a CEO or as a leader, and then we spend millions teaching him to think like a woman. If what we were doing was all coming forward with the feminine developed in men and in women, then the new paradigm would be an easier shift. And it's about being in alignment, it's about being attuned, it's about the people mattering, not just the direction. The direction is it pertains to the people.
Wow, that's so interesting about men being trained to think like a woman.
Millions, we spend millions. We hire male CEOs and we spend millions teaching them to think like a woman.
Wow.
Just hire the woman already and be done with it.
That really says a lot about the state of where things are at. And all the work that we still have yet to do, and how important and relevant these conversations are. Because I didn't know that. Wow, that's incredible. Oh, gets me fired up. And so what do you think it's going to take to change the world? I mean, in a nutshell, of course, we don't have hours and hours here, but just what like comes to mind as being the main thing to change the world for the better?
I think the old infrastructures will break down. They will crack because they won't have a home in the current energy. And I think that the universe is helping us to change. There are already things that happen now that don't happen now, that happened even 5 years ago, and that we look back and think, just imagine if that happened today, wouldn't last for a millisecond. You know, if you look at the Black Lives Matter, if you look at the Me Too movement, these have been core movements that have shifted thousands of years of thinking that just assumed certain things, you know. So it does. I think that as women get, honestly, the core of it to me is that women need to remember they're 50% of the world. We need to remember we have a voice. We need to remember we have a seat at any table. It's not even like your table we just have a seat because we have a seat, because we're born, because we're entitled. And if we could take ourselves more seriously, I just did a coaching call with my group tonight, and we started with, how do we take ourselves more seriously? Because if we can't take ourselves seriously, nothing will come off that. And I think that's incredibly important. And the more women we change, the more women we help economically, the more women we ignite, the more different the world is, minute, by second, by hour, by everything, you know? I think there's inevitability about it. And then there becomes a momentum where the wave becomes big enough.
Absolutely. I have some clients that work in government, and to see the change that they're making, and me knowing that I supported that process, that journey, that empowerment, just lights me up. I know I'm not the one to be on the front line politically, but if I can help support another woman to do that, it's like, and that's like how it works. So I love that answer. So great. So what are your top 3 qualities that you admire in women leadership?
Intuition, 100%. The ability to pivot, I think, is really important, and kind of reading the zeitgeist, you know, being able to understand where they are, what they're doing, and what the needs are of where they are and what they're doing. So, but to me, they're almost all the same thing as well. But it's the ability to be the person that you need to be every single day, because you've had to adapt anyway if you're a woman and you've gotten to that stage, and if you're a parent and you've gotten to that stage, and if you're worked in business and you've gotten to that stage, you're so goddamn strong, you know. But if you can add to that the female qualities of being intuitive, of being able to pivot, of being able to shift your gaze every day to where you need to be, I think those things are really important. And I see that a lot in my clients that have succeeded, because a lot of my clients are very famous. But fame and money fame doesn't always bring money, and money doesn't always bring joy. And so the ones that do become balanced and aligned, they do those things.
That makes so much sense to me. And actually that has been my experience, is the pivoting, and how important that is, especially when you go through trauma, or think the shift, you know, paradigm shift. There's a lot of change that happens, and you have to be able to not, you know, of course, be resilient, but sometimes resilience isn't even enough. You have to be able to pivot. I love that. Thank you. That just really lit me up. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Perfect.
And so who are your most respected leaders that have inspired you? You know, past, present leaders.
I mean, it's difficult because I think that different people have inspired me. I've never been the kind of person that needs someone to inspire me for me to do something, if that makes sense, because there was never anyone that looked like me that did anything that I was looking at, so it wasn't relevant. So, you know, what I do like is when people will show you possibility or you know, what, like Oprah's done amazing things, but then Kris Jenner, I think, is utterly amazing. And my kids have always laughed because I'm one of the few people that would go, look at the business the Kardashians are running, because it's insanely successful what they've done. They changed the paradigm of women billionaires around the world. And you can laugh at them or joke or whatever, they're still sitting on that money. It was the most insane business strategy that has created that. I think that's phenomenal. I think the compassion that Nelson Mandela showed by being who he was and the way in which he did it. I find Graça Machel, his second wife, a really interesting woman. She married 2 presidents, and that's technique. Damn, you know, I mean, like, that woman is not messing about. And, you know, and she married the Mozambique president, Samar Machel, and then she married Nelson Mandela. And I think being an icon's wife is a pretty damn big deal, you know, and she managed it with grace and dignity and honor. And you're like, wow. So I think these are, you know, some of the things that I enjoy, but then I'll find inspiring shit all over the place.
I love, Geeta, that, you know, pretty much everyone that you've mentioned is really powerful, like really an embodiment of powerful women. Which leads me to this is my next question, is how do you feel about power?
I love it. I'm very powerful, and I really like that about myself. And I will always, always, always pursue. I have no desire to be perfect. I am 100% desirous of being powerful. You know, 100%. Because to me, being perfect is irrelevant. I don't understand whose idea of perfection or whatever. That means rubbish. It's just stupid. I don't get that. But power, I get that. And we often, as women, you know, we've had this conversation where we are afraid of power because it's a very masculine, oppressive approach. Why not create a female, feminine version of power? You know, a version that is happy, and we love ourselves for it, and we admire ourselves for it, and we respect ourselves for it. My power is one of the most important things in the world to me. And I'm very careful to husband my resources to make sure that I stay at a high level of power. And that means being physically fit. It means being emotionally stable. It means looking after myself, eating well, thinking well, taking space to hang out, and, you know, space to be deeply stupid, which I really enjoy. Frivolity is really important as part of that.
I love that. And, you know, as you're speaking, I've teared up again, and my, you know, my heart is just burst open again. It's that activation of power, of why I feel so drawn and connected to you, and why I wanted you to be, you know, part of the Goddess Summit and the Leadership Summit, is because you embody power in a way that is so inspiring and healing. And oh, thank you.
I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just really emotional, because I think that this is so big for so many women. You know,
we also don't think that we can learn it. And we don't think, you know, like, leaders are born, not made. I mean, this is all rubbish, because I taught myself to achieve this level of power and maintain it. I have a client who we were talking to last week, and she became one of 19 women that run NASDAQ listed companies in the world as a chair. That's a huge achievement. And she came for coaching a year before that. And a year before, I was like, can I read you your notes? And she's like, please don't. I'm like, no, let me read your. And this woman was cracking up laughing because I hate you. But I always keep notes because, you know, it's good to read them to people. And she was like, a year before, she had started a new job. And she's like, oh my God, like the office manager is terrible. She won't pay for my laptop. She doesn't pay for my taxi. I really hate my life. Why am I doing this job? And, you know, we went from there to one holding a post that 19 women hold in the world.
wow.
In the world, in 1 year. Why do we think this takes time? It just doesn't. It doesn't, you know? It takes some dedication and obviously money, because coaching is, you know, is a job. But it's, for me, I will spend every last resource I have in becoming the most powerful version of me at any time. And I'll spend more money doing that than I will do anything else in the world, because that predicates everything else that I do. And I think
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. If we don't invest in ourselves, you know, and I,
so fast.
Yeah. And, you know, I used to think that it was a bit too me centric to be in my power, because when I do step fully into my power, I shine really bright. I get a lot of attention. I get a lot of jealousy. I get a lot of like not so good stuff coming at me. And because of the sensitive soul that I am, being an empath, I then, you know, in the past had taken all that on. And so then the shrinking thing became safer. But I'm so over it. And I think a lot of women are, and they're ready to step into their power. And I'm with you. That's what it's going to take to change this world. And so thank you for doing the work that you do. And yes, working with a coach speeds up the whole process, because we have blind spots that we can't even see.
100%. And when you're working with a coach who doesn't let you get away with anything, I think that's, you know, that's super helpful. And I'm always like, in my brain, I think, where am I stuck? Okay, then I find someone who's working on that one thing, who's, you know, and then I'm like, okay, I need you. I had a period where I didn't drink because I was having babies. It was like 10 years I didn't drink. And I remember standing next to this man in a bar for 3.5 hours while he drank. And I just said, yeah, I just would like to work with you. Just tell me when you're free. And this man's like, you're literally not going to leave, are you? I'm like, no. The minute you tell me where and when we're meeting, I will leave you. I would not leave because I wanted to know what he knew. I wanted to learn what he knew.
Wow.
And I think that's, we should do our version of that, whoever we are, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I've got a big question for you. If you were made leader of the world, what would be your plan to, you know, kind of make things right in the world?
Honestly, I really feel like they should do that. I feel like I'd do a much better job of running the world than whoever currently is doing it. I'm a big fan that they should just let me do that. I could do 5 to 10 years and then I'd hand it back off to whoever. It's like the Malaysian royal family does. And they run the country for 5 years and then they bring it to the next family and then the next royal, and they have like 5 royal families. And every 5 years they take over the throne or something. It's a great idea. I would have every single woman over the age of 35 go through a weekly coaching program of empowerment. I mean, I'd like to do that anyway. But I think that one thing, empowering every single woman over 35 to find out who she is, what she wants, how she asks for it, what her voice sounds like, what she deserves, what she's trying to get. And you just have that conversation once a week globally. I think that would literally change the world as we know it in a year.
What a great idea. I love that. And
added other coaches too. But
you know, what I've always said is helping the children, but you're quite right. When you help the mothers, then you are helping the children.
Definitely.
Beautiful.
And, one of the charities I chair is called the Microloan Foundation, and we loan 25 to 45 pounds to each woman to help them set up a business. And these are the poorest women in the world. They live on less than £1 a day. And we teach them like financial literacy using song because they cannot read or write. And, you know, so last year alone, we helped 38,000 women, 38,000 plus women set up a business. And for every woman we've helped, statistically, we help 4 kids get fed, clothed, housed, and educated. That's mind-blowing. That's literally generational change there, you know? Now, what if we could take this and make it global?
Wow.
You don't need that much to do it. You don't. You just don't. Yeah. So
there are so many ways, so many reasons I love you. And so this leads into me asking a bit more about W Corp, because I read through the material. It looks so incredible what you're up to. Tell us more, and tell everyone that's watching how they can be involved as well.
Yeah,
I've already passed on your information to some business owners here in Wellington, by the way. I'm like, I went out to dinner with a girlfriend last night and I was like, oh my goddess, you've got to meet this woman. She's incredible. So, you know, you'll be getting some people contacting you for sure.
Thank you. It's all important for our map, you know, because our map runs everything. So I would get interviewed all the time and they would be like, are you a feminist? And I was always like, I really get this and I really care, but really I'm a womanist. I'm all about women. I'm like, what can we do? Like, how do I help? I'm a womanist. That's how I see. And that's what, and I was like, okay. So then I was sort of thinking, should I do a TED talk and call it the womanist movement? And then when I started to build that, I'm an entrepreneur, right? I've done 5 startups and sold 2 of them. And I'm like, okay, actually, this is a business. How do I make this into a business that can then change lives and change women's lives? And that whole analytical thing came into being. And I think I said this to you before. I was reading a report on a man that the women who work for him have been trying to bring him to court for sexual assault and rape, our own Harvey Weinstein. And they've been trying to do this to him for I think it's been 12 years and it never worked. It never worked. He kept getting, you know, and going off he would go. And finally, this woman managed to get him. In April last year, I read the court filings. And this woman said, and you know, have you ever read something where your life is never the same again after you've read it?
Yes, I have.
I read this thing, and these women said on the top floor, they said that when he left the office to go down, they would ring the women on the ground floor so they could find a locked door to hide behind before he came there.
That's so
and
terrible.
I just couldn't, as a woman, I couldn't move past that because it tells us so much about these women. It tells us that these women had no choice. It tells us they were trapped. It tells us they couldn't find other work. They need the money and that they had no one to help them. And I was just like, this is unacceptable. What can we do to change this? So I came up with the womanist movement as a result of that. And it has the business side and the personal side. So on the business side, I created W Core, and W Core is a certification program where we help companies understand how to create an infrastructure that takes into account the life changes women go through, so that your workplace becomes a safe, supportive workplace for women to succeed in. And by that, I mean, like when I went to become a lawyer, there were 50-50 intake from university going into work, right? Within 5 years, nearly a third of those women had left. Now, they're not leaving because their health likes it. They're not leaving because they don't need the money. They're not, you know, they're leaving because they have no choice but to go. So we then fall into even more poverty. Now, a simple, and this is funny because actually then my daughter got fired for having her period when she worked in her coffee shop at university. And she's like, Mama, it's legal for them to fire me for having a period. And this kind of stuff just drives me nuts. So I was like, okay, how do I change this? And I drilled down into the understanding that if we can make a few infrastructure shifts, basic ones, we have 96,000 women's data. And we use that to create this certification in W Corp. So companies come in, we certify you. And the fun thing about it is that every single women's business we've certified has passed with a ratio of over 95%. Because women understand the infrastructure other women need and they set that up for it to work. So, and we launched this at the United Nations 3 weeks ago, which was the most terrifying thing I've ever done, but I'm very grateful that's finished. So that's over there. But the other element of it is if you're a woman, we wanted to create a global platform for you to be a trusted news source, a trusted platform to talk to us for help, to have conversations, to grow your businesses, to learn about your bodies. And so we also created WCOM, which is WCOMM.world. And that's the personal part of the womanist movement. And so we want women to come onto this platform, and it's $1 a month. It's as cheap as we can make it. And you come on and we have everything built up in body there, because I have 15 years of working with your body. So we've uploaded all that information and it's there. We have all this inspiring content on the mindset. We've got a whole bunch of entrepreneurial resources that we're adding in, and we're going to slowly add in politics and finance and economics, and then women's rights as well. And we want to create a space where women can come on and talk about how their lives are going. and women can hear them wherever. So the woman in Wellington can talk to the woman in Mumbai, who can then talk about a woman in Thailand, and that you don't have a filter to hear these voices. Because think about it this way, where the heck do we hear our voices as women? Where do we go?
You know, Geeta, I realized that this was a dream of mine to do something like what you're doing. It's been in my heart, it's been in my mind. I didn't know how it could be done. And, you know, the thing is, I can't do everything. And so I'm so glad that you've done it. And then I can just be
Oh,
part of
please
it.
join. Yes,
Yes,
join me.
absolutely.
Honestly, as much help as humanly possible, add it in, because
Oh,
we need a global trade union for women.
I
And
think
that's
this
what,
is I think this is a dream of many, many women. And
please, I honestly do not know more than anybody else with this. Please come forward. Please help me. Please help me create this. We want to create offices around the world. We've identified a lady in Kenya who will help us with an East African hub. We've identified a lady in Mumbai. We're talking to an old university friend of mine in Malaysia. We don't have anybody in any other country I haven't mentioned. So if you live in any of these countries and you run women's networks, you run entrepreneur networks, you run anything, come on. We will give you a platform to help you to shine. We don't want to take away from what you're doing. We'll just give you a global platform to raise whatever it is you're doing, so more people know you exist. You know,
wonderful.
that's all we want to do. And we just created one platform where we can all talk to each other.
So great. So wonderful. It seriously really is something that I envisioned that we needed. And so this is like an answer to a prayer. Seriously. Thank
I
you.
love that.
I love
Oh
it
no,
too.
I'm so
I'm going to cry again.
no, definitely. Please, please, please come on. And you know,
Oh, you're gorgeous. You're
there's no
gorgeous.
ownership. I just see myself as steering the ship. You know,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
zero ego around this. So
Yeah.
ownership, just come on board.
Absolutely. 100%. No, you can't have ownership with something like this. It's a movement.
Oh, yeah. And that's what we're trying to do, create a global movement.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. I'll definitely put the links below. So if you're watching this, the links will be below. Oh, fantastic. Do you have any last and final pearls of wisdom? And I actually would really like to hear a little bit more about what you offer in regards to coaching, what you would like to share with everyone that's watching.
Um, you know, coaching is one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. I would happily, had the universe not smacked me upside the head, stayed as a coach forever and ever. And I still coach as well. My joy in coaching is that we think that because we've been stuck for 15 years, we think it'll take 15 years to come out of the stuck. Absolutely untrue. You can have been stuck for 50 years and we can change your life in 1, 2, 3, or 4 quarters. That is the thing that I love about what I do. And I want people to understand, whether it's me or whether it's another coach, find a coach that you resonate with, because I know the work that I have done, and it just takes sometimes a little different storytelling, a little different visual of what you're looking at. And it unpacks, you know, you can make huge transformations in very small bits of time if you hone in on what the actual problem is. Because we talk a lot about gender pay, gender diversity. Ultimately, women just want to stay at work. That's why we change infrastructure. What are we doing there? We're drilling down into what the core problem is. And that's what I think I do in coaching. I've worked with women who grow businesses. Like I have a client who came in at 3 million. We grew her through an IPO to 55 million. I have a client who's come in now. She's coming in at just around $1 million, and she set up a business, but she's ended up with only 3% of her business. And she wants to run the business, but she thinks she can't. And I love that shit, because it's going to take me 6 months to get her to a place where she can run it. And then in another 6 months, she'll be like, here's how that shit's going down. You know, so you know that's going to happen, right? And it just brings me such joy. I can't tell you. It's honestly the best job in the world. I love it. I don't even know if I can explain what it is. I help you to unpack all the stuff that's keeping you stuck, dump that shit, and then become the best version of you. I'm pretty sure that's not technical, but that's really what I do.
I really love that. I love how you just got right in there and boiled it down.
Yeah.
This is what I do. Yeah, good. It's very clear. It's what we all want.
it's highly effective. Like when we coached, it was a 15-minute session. And in 15 minutes, you can change somebody's life if you're drilling down to the right problem. If you're not talking about the right problem, it just doesn't matter how long you spend with somebody. They're not going to shift.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're a medical medium as well.
Medical intuitive.
You
Yeah.
medical intuitive, because you just went right in there with laser focus and got right to
really
the core. Yeah. Very helpful.
It's very helpful because the things that somebody won't say to you, you can see energetically. So you know where to go to have that conversation, because the body will tell you everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to have that. That's just a prerequisite for me. Intuition.
And I think all successful, intelligent women have a very distinct persona. We're all quite badass. We're quite stubborn. We're very sticky, you know, because we need to respect you before we're listening to you. So we can be very hard work, and that's okay. I think that we should be hard work, you know, but it means that the person that's going to coach you, you better be respecting them. Because if you're not, if they should be at the minimum, you should feel that they're your equal. Because if they're not, you're not going to listen or do anything they tell you to do.
I love that. So true. 100% true.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, any last and final pearls of wisdom before we go?
Such a pleasure to meet you. And honestly, I'm learning on being a better listener. And you are a phenomenal listener. It is the most interesting experience to sit with somebody who listens as well as you do. And it's a real skill. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, thank you, Geeta. Thank you so much for your empowerment, your wisdom.
I barely swore. It's pretty good.
Oh, just wonderful. This has been so activating and so incredible. And you have a free gift to offer everyone as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
We have an outline of the Lead Like a Woman workbook and workshop. And so that's a super helpful thing to go through, because it shows you the ways that you can change how you're thinking. And it's a really, really great experience. So that's a really good way to work out what you need to feel empowered and how to take the steps to get there.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that sounds fantastic. Exactly. Perfect for what we need. You know, I just find so many women are still reluctant to step into their power and to step into their leadership. So this is going to be very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Geeta.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.